Every season begins the same way, with a launch into the unknown. But what happens next depends on instinct, grit, and the will to outlast the rest. This year, the paths of victory were as diverse as the champions who rose from them. From rivers to reservoirs,
Here's a 10-pounder!
There was one finish line. Some survived against the odds. Others dominated, while all were chasing the same dream. This isn't just bass fishing. It's proving you belong.
Well, our season's been over for 2 weeks, and already, looking at that right there, why can't we get it started again right now? It was a great season. Yeah, let's go. But we got to get ready for this next season. This season of 2026 for the Bassmaster Elite Series. There's going to be some changes made. There are always changes made, but there's a big one, and it is the big topic of conversation for the last, let's call it 3 or 4 years now. There's going to be a new policy regarding the use of front-facing live sonar at these events. It's a big one. It's a big one. We've been getting little tips and bits of information. 2 days ago, this was announced that we were going to take this schedule, and now welcome into the Bassmaster Studio, sponsored by Marathon. Tommy Sanders here, and you know who these gentlemen are if you're tuning in today. Mark Zona, Davey Height, or I think you're Mark Zona, you're Davey Height. That's okay. I'm the only one who doesn't know. But anyway, we got big business on hand today, very important business, but we're going to change the way this season plays out regarding the use of front-facing live sonar. We are going to go through the schedule, do a random selection for each of these events to decide as many as 5 of them will have front-facing sonar allowed, as many as 4, or it could be the other way around. We're going to get that all settled today. Thank you guys for joining us today. And man, I got so many thoughts coming into this one. I can't.
Well, listen, I didn't think this day was ever going to come. And look, there's been a lot of time taken to make the decision that Chase Anderson made for Bassmaster. And really, the decision was for Bassmaster as a company, for the viewer experience, and for what Chase feels as a whole to be fair to the anglers. And the one thing, Tommy, and I've said this, man, I've said this in this studio, the best seasons are the ones that have diversity across the board, different styles of fishing, whether you're using technology or not. As a fan, and I've been one this year, I love this year with the scheduling. The other thing that I've thought about this a lot is, look, there's a lot of young anglers that get a lot of heat right now with, well, if they don't have that shine box, they're not going to perform. We are going to see that. We're going to have diversity in the 2026 season, and we're going to learn a lot about what is said about a lot of those young anglers too.
Yeah, everything you said there I agree with. The biggest thing is diversity. I think our fans, our fishermen have wanted diversity on the Bassmaster Elite Series, and I have talked to some of the young anglers just like you have, Mark Zona. A lot of these young anglers say, I want to prove to the world I can catch them without my live sonar forward-facing technology. And they're going to have a chance to do that. The other thing I think is real important to talk about is without having some events with and without, we really can't learn what we need to learn about the future and the decisions to be made in our sport. Whether we go with it or without it or a 50-50 scenario, you have to look at all sides.
I made a comment to you before we went live today, and I said, obviously forward-facing sonar has opened up a realm of fish that are always have been impossible to catch. Suspended bass over deep water. And I've thought about this a lot the last 2 weeks, really, when we kind of knew that this announcement was going to come out. Can some of these anglers, now that we know that outer realm, that bass suspend over 80 feet of water, and not just a few, a lot of them, can some of these anglers crack that code without forward-facing? We're going to learn all of that.
We will, and we pay attention to what our fans say, what the anglers say. Some people say, hey, it's the same as side imaging. It's the same as down imaging. It's the same as live 360. We're going to find out if that's really the case or not.
Yeah, this is the second step, really, in this process. Last year, that great season we just had that little look back at a minute ago, was scheduled with diversity of destinations in mind. Hoping that the hope was that it would encourage, more different styles to play and get a better idea of what works, what doesn't, what people like, what they don't like. That was a good first step, but I think this is going to enforce that, and it's going to force the issue a little bit more, and hopefully advance the conversation.
And it's not done here. I mean, B.A.S.S is going to keep analyzing this every single year to put out the best product that they can. And really, the other side of it, man, is, and I mean this, is talking to anglers and talking to fans. I get both sides of it.
Sure.
And you can ask the senior management at B.A.S.S. I've given them 30 different answers the last 3 years because I go up and down about it. Look, man, I want to see Greg Hackney flipping a jig in a bush. I want to see Koya Fujita out in the abyss. We're going to see that.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, let's take a look. We're going to make those determinations right now. This is a random method of picking which lakes are going to have and which are not going to have front-facing live sonar. We start by looking at the schedule there. That's the way it lays out. It's 9 events. So we will have 4 coin flips that will take care of those first 8 events right there. We flip the coin and
2 by 2.
2 by 2, right. If it comes up, no front forward facing for Lake Guntersville, it's going to be the opposite for Lake Martin. That's the way it works right there.
Yeah, let's dial into that just a little bit more. We're pairing these so we will have a equal amount spread out with and without forward facing. It would not be fair to the viewers, to the anglers, if it was heavy on the front end or without. And flipping a coin, it could be that, but when we pair them in 2s, we're going to have the first 2 events, one with, one without, and so forth and so on down to the last event.
All right. Well, you can see how the pairings are going to work out. We're not flipping a coin for the Bass Pro Shops Bassmaster Classic. That has already been decided. It will contain front-facing live sonar because that's the way the anglers qualified through the previous season for that. All right, let's talk about our methodology here, and it's one of the most trusted, one of the oldest ways of solving things like that in sports history.
If it works for the NFL, it could work for the Bassmaster. And look, and this is the one thing, when this decision was made, I talked about it on the TNZ show, we have to be out front 100% on how the lakes are picked. Whether you are throwing darts, playing bago, or flipping this coin, it has to be fully transparent on how these lakes are picked. Not in a room where somebody's deciding, hey, let's put it here, let's not put it here. Up close and personal. So we're going to take a look at this coin right here. If you look at that B.A.S.S shield, that B.A.S.S shield is going to be no forward-facing sonar, okay? Take a look at that right there. You see the shield. The other side of it, if it lands on that bass eating that jig or mop jig, whatever it is going to be forward-facing sonar, okay? The other thing, and we're going to get into the rules here real quick, if this coin lands out of the circle of trust or is a leaner on the rail, we're going to flip it again. Okay. But that coin right there will decide really the entire season. And the great thing about it, by the end of this show, you know this, Davey, you guys game plan basically after after lacrosse, y'all are game planning into next year. There's going to be big game planning by about noon Eastern today.
All right.
Absolutely.
That is the promise of today. Let's talk about our first matchup. It's 2 lakes in Alabama. The first one we will talk about is Lake Guntersville on the Tennessee River. It is at 69,000 acres, the largest lake in Alabama. It is a bucket list lake for everyone who loves fishing for big bass, and it has kicks them out year in, year out, day in, day out, all year long.
And that Lake Guntersville, the time of year that we're going, is not going to look like this with Caleb Kufal. And man, here it's weird because Such, more than anybody, wants to see century belts. If Guntersville today gets forward-facing sonar, I think it's very fair to say, in the middle of wintertime, there will be 10 century belts given away. If not, I think you'll start to see the way that they used to catch them years ago, jerk baiting, bladed jigs, lipless crankbait.
Yeah, it's going to be so exciting. I've thought about all these events, however they might be with or without the forward-facing. live technology. And Guntersville, Lake Martin, these first two that we're going to decide on, really exciting. Guntersville is going to be a good event no matter what, because we're there in February for the first time in a very long time. Those pre-spawn bass, we will see big weights, but you're right, Markzona. If we fish Guntersville in February, unless we have some crazy, crazy weather, there will be 10 century bells with the forward facing.
No doubt about it. And the great thing that time of year, we have covered tournaments there early.
Yeah.
I don't know that we've covered one that early.
No, this is February 5th through the 8th. That is really early.
Davey, we've been there. There could be ice out there.
Yes, absolutely. I think we've experienced that on the Zona show.
We have.
We stay in Alabama for the second event of the season. Now we're flipping the coin between these two events here. This is going to be on the Tallapoosa River, Lake Martin, third largest lake in Alabama, 44,000 acres and probably even more miles of shoreline than Lake Guntersville. It is a canyon-style upland reservoir. It's been around. It's a mature lake that's been around a long time. We haven't been there with the Elite since 2018.
We haven't, and this is a lake that I think there's a couple that, depending on whether we use forward facing or not, will dictate on whether largemouth are going to be a play or not. I think if we happen to go with Lake Martin without forward facing, we will see a lot more anglers target the largemouth. If we go there with the forward facing, I think it will be catch 50 spots a day in the biggest 5. Hopefully they'll weigh 12 pounds.
Well, if forward-facing sonar is allowed in Lake Martin, a lot of anglers are going to have to lay up a little bit, not gamble as much on those shallow water large. If you look at what Takahiro did here years ago, going up the river, dominating the entire tournament, but for the most part in that event, your numbers game were spotted bass. And these aren't like Lake Lanier spotted bass or Lake Hartwell spotted bass, little bit smaller. And if anglers are not able to use forward-facing sonar, anglers could basically say, I'm going to get on the bank and I'm going to gamble for a win on largemouth.
All right. Well, we have an extra added attraction today. We have a special guest for each of our picks. And there he is, the one and only Gerald Swindle. We associate this man with the state of Alabama. We associate him with a star-studded career that contains 2 Angler of the Year titles, but we're going to talk about the elephant in the room first. There, Gerald, you're playing through injury a little bit here today, and we appreciate that.
Just got a little black eye. You know, sometimes people turn their aggression towards you. You know, just trying to help somebody out and trying to help a man that was being chased by a crazy man. And the more I kept him off of it, James Watson was with me, the more he said, "Hey, I want to fight you." And I said, "Hell, okay, let's go." And that's where he rests on the sand.
How does he look? How does he look, Gerald? How does he look right now?
He's in jail. We packed off his wounds with sand. He didn't bleed out too bad. He was laying there. He rests softly on the sand as James Watson rested on him and said, you know, don't move. But, you know, hey, it is what it is, man. I didn't want to get involved. This guy's crying out for help. He said, man, somebody's got to help me. And I'm like.
So Gerald, to be clear, the discussion was not over forward-facing or not forward-facing that caused this?
No.
Okay.
That's what it was. Somebody at Key West said, man, I love FFS. What right now?
Well, now this discussion is revolving around forward-facing or no forward-facing. When you take a look at Lake Guntersville, starting out, what are you thinking? Which one would you kind of, in your personal feelings about this subject, which would you rather Guntersville turned out, not or with forward-facing?
I mean, if I just had a wish list, I would probably wish Guntersville without and Lake Martin with, because like I think Davey talked about, it's a great strategy there. For whoever goes there and gambles on largemouth at Lake Martin, you could possibly win. So if you go there with FFS, a lot of people are going to focus on the spot. So to me, it opens up some largemouth fishing. So I would probably prefer Guntersville without. It's going to be a great event regardless. And even without it, somebody will probably get a century belt, but it's going to be good either way.
You go ahead,
Gerald. How do you feel as we talked about this before we went live today, and I made the comment. I said, you know, when you try to make everybody happy, you tend to upset everybody in some way, shape, or form. How do you feel about it?
And I'm not near as opposed to it as what some people think. I think generally because my age. People think, well, all the old heads just hate it. I don't hate it. I've had some good tournaments with it. I do love diversity. And I do love the fact that we're going to be able to mix it up. And, I think when you take it out of the equation, Z, you get so much more going on in your mind. I fished a tournament at St. Lawrence this year with no FFS. I probably had 25 rods on my boat and in the floor on the first day of practice. Had I go there with FFS, I got 4 rods out. So I like that whole scrambling of the baits and the planning and all that. So I think it's going to be good. I'm not near as opposed as what people think, but I do love diversity.
Yeah, so Gerald, personal question for you. Do you feel like your chances of winning another AOY, making a classic, are better with this, with and without season that we're having in 2026, or the way it was in 2025?
I mean, just to be straight honest, I think the way we're going to do it this year, I'll have a better shot for a potential AOY or to make the classic. It's just the way I fish, and it keeps people on their toes. So, I mean, I don't want people to judge that and say, well, he's just for this because he knows it's going to help himself, because I could say the same thing. The guys that made the classic look easy the last couple of years that were master scopers, you got to say the same thing. So I think it's probably going to help how I fish a little in my mindset. But, yeah, I mean, it's going to make it interesting for the fans. And I'm like you guys. I've listened to the fans and listened to the fans. They loved watching 10 Killer, those old wrestling around in the bushes. Nobody knows what's going on. Like the fans, the diehard junkies that watch fishing, they love that stuff, man.
Swindle, you ready? Let's do this. Let's do this, bud.
Let's do this.
Right. Here's the way this is going to work, gang. Okay? Again, you see the Bass shield right there. That is going to be no forward-facing sonar for Lake Gunnersville. If it lands on that side right there, that is going to be, see that bass eating that crawdad. If that lands on Lake Gunnersville, it will be forward-facing sonar. Again, it cannot leave the circle of trust if I make a bad throw, cannot be a leaner. Swindle, are you ready? This is for Lake Gunnersville.
I am ready.
Wes Miller, Mike McInnes, Lake Gunnersville. No forward-facing sonar, Lake Gunnersville, which will give Lake Martin forward-facing sonar for the 2026 season.
All right, Gerald, we'll give you the first reaction to that. What do you think about that initially?
I think it's going to be great. It's going to be great for TV. I think it's going to, the way the coin flip went, I think it's going to be beneficial for both lakes, because Lake Martin's known to be stingy and a little tough and the weights are not high. I think this is going to enable the lake to show out. I think Gunners was good enough to entertain the fans and make great weights without it. So I think for the fans, the organization, what we're doing, but I do think, for my personal feeling, I felt a little tingling deep down inside.
Well,
all right.
You're fired up.
I mean,
So next year, when we do this, and I made the comment, as long as we're honest, as long as it's full disclosure, whether we do you agree, whether it's a coin flip or darts, this is the best way to have it up front?
I 100% commend you guys on doing it like that, because you were right. If it's behind closed doors, human suspicion gets involved. Was a company involved in moving this one to this? I love the fact that it's just right there in front of you. There's no secrets. We're flipping the coin. The coin toss will determine someone's AOY, but it's not human driven. So I think anybody can't say anything about it. So I commend you guys on coming in today and doing it, because with this transparency shows that the league and everyone wants to see the sport flourish. And if this is the first step, or, we, like David said, we got to have information. So this is the first step for us gathering the great information, and I commend you guys. The coin flip don't lose. I mean, I played strip poker with flipping a coin, and it don't lie. You'll end up naked on a moped. I'm just telling you.
Sounds good, Gerald. Appreciate it so much, making some time for us, getting this thing kicked off right.
Tommy, it wasn't that good, Tommy, on that moped naked. That's not.
I was
don't throw any more hands, bud. Listen, I know you probably meant well. Don't be throwing hands, bud. Don't be doing that.
I can't believe he knew I had a moped.
Yeah, it worked out pretty good. See, every now and then you just got to throw them bows to prove that you still can.
That's right.
Swindle, just so you know, I looked like that on July 5th, but the scorpion is the one that punched me, just so you know.
The great Gerald Swindle,
you.
everybody. We thank you. Getting it kicked off right with Gerald
great.
Swindle, State of Alabama. You couldn't ask
Okay.
for a better
That's great.
guess than that. We're moving out of Alabama to 2 new destinations for our next coin flip, our next random determination. We are going to first the Tennessee Tombigbee Waterway on March 26th and 29th, and then we're heading on to Muskogee, Oklahoma, and the Arkansas River, which should have plenty of water that time of year, April 26th through the 29th. But first, let's look at the Tombigbee River. Comes out of Pickwick Lake, goes all the way down into Alabama with its confluence with the Alabama River, and it is long, and you can't take on all of it, and it is challenging. We know that. We never had an elite event there, but we all remember when we had an Elite 50 there.
Exactly. And really talking to Justin Atkins here about a month ago, I said, hey, man, just give me a quick breakdown of the 10 Tom. That time of year, he said, look, it's going to be a numbers game. The majority of the population will be up shallow doing their thing. He said, really, that tournament will come down to, do you stay close? Do you maximize your time, go through a lot of numbers, or do you risk it? Do you make one of those long runs? Do you eat up your time and maybe get away from the field? But with that being said, Justin Atkins definitely made the point that is a phenomenal time of year. And what was funny, Davey, before we went live, I said, you're not going to want forward-facing sonar on Tombigbee, or you're not going to want it on the Arkansas River, and you absolutely shut me down.
Well, I just remember Pasquotank last year. Shocked everyone. We didn't think he'd be a big player there. Kyle Welcher not only made it a player, he dominated
Embarrassed
the
the
event. Won by 40 pounds. I mean, it was a big, big player. It will play. And whichever of one of these 2 events you get to use it, it will play. Maybe not as much as it did at Lake Martin, the event before. I agree with that 100%, but it will be a player in one of these 2 events. We'll just wait and see. The conditions that time of year, you mentioned it, Z, you, Tommy, there'll be a lot of water, but it's a great time to be there. There'll be a lot of fish up shallow. It'll be a good, let's call it diverse 2 events compared to Lake Guntersville, some of the others.
All right, that'll be the first destination in mind for our next coin flip. The second destination is going up against is Muskogee, Oklahoma. Let's take you over to the Sooner State of Oklahoma. Go close to Muskogee, just south and east of Tulsa. And there we find the Arkansas River. The Arkansas River on its journey from Colorado down to its confluence with the Mississippi in the state of Arkansas.
And very funny, just like talking to Justin Atkins, got to talk to Jason Christie about the Arkansas River. I was lucky enough to fish with him on this stretch of the Arkansas River. Not the easiest place to get around, to navigate. I mean, will be a big challenge for a lot of the anglers that have never fished there before. But with that being said, Jason Christie also made the comment. He said, since you were there, Zona, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever it was, he said, Arkansas River fishing very, very solid. I believe they have night tournaments there that are 3 fish limits, big weights, very big weights from years in the past. So Jason Christie saying we are definitely hitting that tournament at the right time if we do not get into any flood conditions.
That's great info. When the schedules are announced, a lot of anglers, people look at the schedule and like, why are we going there? They don't understand that people like Jason Christie are licking their chops when they see Arkansas River on that schedule. So we have a lot of diverse anglers, and they like different fisheries. You can see where this particular river will set up great for Jason Christie.
Could play out a number of different ways. You remember Chris Jones from the Classic back in 2020?
Absolutely.
He qualified for that by winning here, locking down a Kerr Reservoir and catching about 14.5 pounds a day average down there. So it could be quite interesting for a number of different reasons. So that is our 2 for the next coin flip. Our two candidates. One will go forward facing, one will go not. Let's recap what we've seen so far for those of us who are just picking up with us right now, and I know on a busy work day that's could be possible. We flipped for Alabama, the first 2 events in February of the year. Lake Guntersville, it turns out, is going to be non-forward facing sonar, and Lake Martin will be available on Lake Martin on the Tallapoosa River. All right, now it's time to meet our guest for this one right there. And there's Drew Benton. Drew Benton joins us here. And Drew, thank you for making some time with us today. As we look at these 2 waterways, it's probably maybe less known about these 2 among the entire elite field than anywhere else we're going. Everywhere else, we got more recent experience.
Yeah, thanks for having me. One thing about these river systems is what's in play. You've got long runs. Do you stay close? Do you gamble? And the diversity of these river systems is what makes it challenging. And I love a river system tournament, whether it's a tidal system or, whether we're way up north on the St. Lawrence River. And, I love the diversity and the challenge and making those decisions and calculated risk.
Drew, how do you feel about the start of the season in Alabama with no forward facing on Gunnersville, and then it will be loud on Lake Martin?
Man, it just hit me when you flipped that coin and said no forward facing on Gunnersville. And that's when it really sunk in for me. I'm going to be out there trapping, throwing a bladed jig, swim jigging around, maybe throwing a jerk bait depending on the weather. All those tools in your toolbox is what makes or what drew me into professional fishing, and being able to use all those tools and the AOY being determined by the diversity of an angler and being able to showcase that. I'm extremely excited about 2026.
So I have to ask you a personal question, Drew. Just your opinion on what you like best. We're about to look at the Tennessee Tom and then the Arkansas River. It's in the month of April where we've seen you shine. You are one of the best sight fishermen there is on the planet right now. Which one of these two, just your personal wish list, I guess we could say, would you like to see no forward-facing sonar, which might give you a better chance at finding some clear water and sight fishing?
I haven't really thought about that, but I would say Tom Bigby, just because I think there's the capability or possibility that you can run to that little clear water that's in between there and Pickwick. And there's a reservoir right there that's well known, that's got, high drill in it, got clear water, and you have the ability, I think, to get there and sight fish for 5. And being that we only got to catch 5, you can do that in a day, I feel like. So I think that they'll both play. I have to agree with you. Sabine River, the top 10, a lot of the top 10 was utilizing forward-facing sonar in a scenario like that, catching those fish that pulled out and in Taylor's Bayou and pulled out on structure, and they utilized it there. So it's going to play in both of them. But if I had to pick, I'd rather not use it at Tom Bigby.
Drew, I appreciate you not taking some time away from your food plots today, not growing your deer. Real quick, are you ready for this? We're going to do it again. We're going to do it for the Tennessee Tom Bigby Waterway. The Bass Shield will be no forward-facing sonar for that event, turning it around. The bass eating the jig, eating that crawl right there, will be forward-facing sonar. Drew, you ready?
I'm ready. Let's get it on.
Wes, Mike McInnes. Right. For Tennessee Tom Bigby, there will not be forward-facing sonar.
I'm going to give you the first reaction to that, Drew. Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing or indifferent?
I really don't know. I guess that's 2 for 2 on the anglers picking their favorites. So, it's that could be very good or very bad. We'll just have to see how it plays out. But it will change the dynamic of that tournament. And I think what you'll end up seeing is a lot of guys, crossing over to how they set up NASCAR. They set up different cars for different tracks. I think you'll see different boats set up for different events based on the technology that we can use. I think 360 will be swapped out with forward-facing sonar, and you'll get to see the best of both worlds, no matter how it shakes out.
So real quick, Drew, now that you got your wish on the way the coin toss played out, do you regret giving away where you think there might be some clear water?
I was totally thinking that when he said it.
No, not at all. I'll mix it up with those boys.
Oh, you do very, very well. Drew, you don't mind some of them being around you.
Drew, we made a comment at the top of the show. We talked about, boy, if you're going to win Angler of the Year next year, it will be the best all-around angler from technology to traditional fishing. Do you feel like it'll set up No Doubt that way?
I absolutely think so. I think that the AOY, I've always said this, should be on the most diverse, versatile, well-rounded angler there is. And the way that B.A.S.S has set this up and made this a diverse schedule and, the diversity of technology used and the way that we get to use all the tools in the toolbox, sell all the products for our sponsors, it's going to be a win-win for everybody.
Drew, I think everybody, I would say the majority of the anglers have feelings both one way or another about the versus or no front-facing sonar. So, we look at this, and this move by Bass to actually do a coin flip and split it out for each of these segments of the season, is that a route toward getting a better conversation going, learning more? What are the againers going to learn, and what are the in favor of forward faces going to learn?
Yeah, I think it's going to teach us a bunch of different things. It's going to teach us, what guys have all those tools, what guys need some learning. I got my teeth kicked in when I first came to the Elite Series because I didn't know these northern smallmouth fisheries and everything like that. So there's a learning curve to this, and I think you're going to see some guys really succeed and some guys struggle, and it's going to be a great proving ground for the Elite Series moving forward.
Drew, we thank you so much for your time today. We enjoy following you every year, your long career on the Bassmaster Elite Series, wins and all. The great Drew Benton helping us out today. So we're going to take a look, or I think we're going to probably go back and take a quick look at what we've had so far. We're moving on to our next two destinations. Let's move on to our next two destinations.
We're going to tap into Davey Height's knowledge and what.
Oh, man.
If he was still fishing the Bassmaster Elite Series.
Yeah, let's go down to the Palmetto State of South Carolina. All the way over to Columbia, South Carolina. That's where it's going to start out at Lake Murray, and Lake Murray has been enjoying a wonderful reputation in your home state the last few years, David.
Yeah, it's certainly one of my favorite lakes. I guess my favorite lake in the country. I learned to bass fish there on Lake Murray, and it has been a good fishery for as long as I've been alive. We've been there in recent years and seen the blueback heron be a big player, Patrick Walters being the last winner. Here we got some footage of our friend Drew Benton, who won there the previous time that we visited Lake Murray. Sight fishing primarily. He was mixing it up a little bit in the morning, fishing the shallow waters, not sight fishing, but a very diverse lake. And I think we'll have good catches whether we're allowing the forward-facing live sonar technology or not on Lake Murray.
On Lake Murray, looking at that tournament that Drew Benton won right there, it was also kind of when we were a little bit introduced to Koya Fujita, who got to show us, hey, they don't all live shallow. Okay. And he was doing some offshore work with forward-facing sonar. Looking at that tournament on Lake Murray, if you were sitting here and it was Lake Murray versus Santee Cooper, how would you want this to fall?
Personally, because I've fished Murray and the Santee Cooper lakes a lot this summer, I would like to see it be a player at Lake Murray, and I don't think we need it as much of a factor on the Santee Cooper lakes.
Why is that?
Because unlike what a lot of people think, especially because of the time of the year, the forward-facing really helps those fish post-spawn. They moved offshore. Patrick Walters was absolutely 100% using his live forward-facing sonar in that event, and a lot of people said he was not.
Yes, he absolutely
was. So I would like to, let's just see us go there and use it there. The other little nugget is Santee Cooper has really changed in the last year or two. A lot of vegetation. Post-spawn, I think the anglers will catch them really good, whether they have it or not.
For the most part, every time that we've been to Santee, for the most part, it's been a pre-spawn or a spawning term, even though anglers might not be putting their eyes on them. Here's the one thing, looking at Santee Cooper, it seems every tournament we go there, somebody will creep up down on Moultrie, the lower lake, compared to Marion, but by the end of the tournament, it's always been Lake Marion dominated. Is this a tournament this time of year, being a different time of year than the Bassmasters usually go there, will Moultrie be a bigger player, and why?
Absolutely, Z, it will be a bigger player. And let's just face it, last few times we've been to Santee Cooper Lakes, it's been Lake Marion and cypress trees. It's been Lake Marion and cypress trees.
Period.
A little mixed up with, Drew Cook winning, sight fishing around cypress trees and lily pads. But a little later in the year, especially with the vegetation really coming around on Lake Marion and Lake Moultrie, it will be a different tournament with or without the live sonar.
We've been watching Drew and Drew highlights here. Drew Benton, his big victory on Lake Murray, when he kind of benefited from the weather. The cloud cover kept him able to stay up with the herring, for longer, but he had the backup plan with the fish on the bed. Santee Cooper's different. You kind of commit to one place if you make a long run, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a big, with the two lakes, Lake Marion and Lake Moultrie, especially if you go to Lake Moultrie, you pretty much committed going there. The wind is always a big factor when you look at those two lakes and the size of those two lakes, how hard it can be to navigate. You have to stay within the markers in certain places. So it'll be a good event, no doubt about it. But one thing, you mentioned Drew Benton winning at Lake Murray. Santee Cooper will be similar to that. I didn't think anyone could find enough sight fish to win that particular event, and Drew Benton did, and that's why he won, because most people thought just like I did.
Yeah.
Going to Santee, there will still be some fish on the bed. Can someone like a Drew Benton, a Drew Cook, or the other great sight fishermen find 20 bass on the bed and win?
We always talk about Santee Cooper. I've taped shows with you there, and I've always made this comment about Santee. Even in March, man, it looks a lot better on paper. You may only catch 8 or 9 bass in a day, but at the end of the day, you're like, wow, that's at 30 pounds. Yeah. How do you think, just whether it's forward-facing sonar or not, just give me a kind of weight that we're looking at that time of year?
To win?
Yes.
Santee Cooper Lakes, with or without forward-facing, I hate to be so broad, but the weather will play a factor in how our winter is. 80 plus, maybe 100 pounds, but if I had to split it, 90 pounds to win.
It'll be up there.
Here's the thing, though. The population has kind of been down at the Santee Cooper Lakes. You see people come in with 5, they're big ones. I think it'll be more like a Florida fishery. The population has gotten better because of the vegetation, but there are a lot of 1 pounders, 1.5 pounds, and then big
or
ones.
7 pounds.
Yes.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, good deal. If you're just happening upon this, you probably know why you're here. You know about the decision by B.A.S.S. 2 days ago to have a new tournament rules set up for this 2026 season. We're going to draw, and we're in the middle of it right now. We're doing the random selection of events to be with forward-facing, live sonar, and events to be without that. We'll have 5 of one, 4 of the other. Just depends on how the coin falls right now. We'll recap what we've done so far. Again, if you're just picking up with us, we went to Alabama to start the season. Those 2 lakes to start, Guntersville and Martin. We flipped the coin, and Lake Guntersville is going to be no front-facing sonar, live sonar, and Lake Martin will have it. We then moved on to the second segment of the season, and the Tin Tom Waterway is going to be the one without front-facing sonar in the Arkansas River out of Muskogee. Oklahoma is going to be with front-facing sonar. That's what we're using right there. That is our technology for making these determinations here, and it's a tried and true one. It is the coin flip.
Like I said, man, it works for the NFL. Let's give it a run.
All right, we have, again, a special guest. John Cruz joins us, another one of the original members of the Bassmaster Elite Series. Got a couple of wins to show for it and much more. Star-studded career. And, John, we thank you so much for hooking up with us for a few minutes today. First of all, I want to ask what you think about this new rules determination for the B.A.S.S. and how they're going to lay out the season for 2026.
For sure. I appreciate you guys having me on. This is exciting. It's new and exciting. And, I've been fishing for so long. You mentioned I was one of the first Elite Series anglers. I just like something new. Let's keep it new as long as the rules are even for everybody. I'm game for whatever we would decide to do. So let's rock and roll, man. I'm looking at these tournaments already, thinking about, this is going to be a factor. That's going to be a factor. Like Benton was talking about, maybe running up to this Clearwater area and checking for some sight fish. That's the kind of stuff that us anglers, man, our wheels start turning immediately on what we need to do to prepare to kick some butt.
John, you have sat in on so many meetings about this. Are you ready to, number one, are you happy with it? And the other thing is, are you ready to move on from all the meetings that you've been in on this?
The meetings I will not miss for sure. But I really think that we should have what the majority of the anglers want to fish for, and we should have what the majority of the fans want to see. I think the fans they were wanting to see something a little bit different. I think forward-facing sonar is here to stay. It's not going away anytime soon. And I think having a mix of with and without it is a good compromise for all parties. The angler spoke, 2/3 of the elite anglers from the 25 season wanted forward-facing sonar restricted in some way. We're seeing some restrictions put in, but it's not going away. You still have to be proficient with it. I can tell you at Lake Martin, unless you can get on Takahiro's hole up the river, you're going to need it. So that's going to be interesting to watch.
So, John, Z put me on the spot wanting to know my opinion about which lake would shine better of these two that we're about to flip for, Lake Murray and the Santee Cooper Lakes. Personally, for John Cruz, which one of these two would you rather have with or without forward-facing sonar?
I think the way I look at it is like what percent of the field is going to be utilizing that technology versus not. I think you were somewhat accurate. I think your argument was very good, Davey, but I would go the opposite direction. I think that a smaller percentage of our Elite Series guys were using forward-facing sonar the last couple of times at Lake Murray. I was utilizing forward-facing sonar the last time we were at Lake Murray. Had a decent event, and so I think that's where it's going to be more of like a smaller factor. I think at Santee Cooper, like you were saying, we're going there later. I think the grass will be a factor. I think that will make it to where you don't necessarily have to have it, but I think a bigger percentage of the field will utilize it at Santee versus at Murray. That's kind of my take on it.
Well, for clarity, I didn't mean to say, I probably misspoke, that the majority of anglers were using. I said Patrick Walters was absolutely using it because there was a big misconception whether he was using it or not.
Right.
John, you reminded us of, go ahead.
Very proficient with that. He's very proficient with that, but it's also his backyard, and you could blindfold him and he will still do very well at Santee Cooper, I promise.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. You reminded me of something we've failed to mention so far today. We did have restrictions in place last year in 2025 regarding on all lakes for forward-facing sonar, and those restrictions remain in force, right?
Yes.
One transducer and a limited screen space.
Yes, not changing any of that from the 2025 season. The event said it is allowed, will be under those same restrictions with the inches of screen and the one sonar, forward-facing sonar on the boat. But when you're not allowed to use it, you can't use it during practice or the event.
Okay.
So,
John,
just
are
like
you
last
ready?
year or not?
Yeah.
Are you ready, John? Here we go. This is going to be for Lake Murray, South Carolina. And again, the Bass Shield right there, will be no forward-facing sonar for Lake Murray, or flipping it around, you see that bass right there eating that crawdaddy. That will be 4 forward-facing sonar. John, are you ready? Wes Miller, cameraman, Mike McInnes, truck. Here we go for Lake Murray 2026. There will be forward-facing sonar on Lake Murray.
Interesting. Very interesting. Kind of like what I said, smaller percentage of the field probably going to utilize that at Murray than would have at Santee Cooper. So now you guys got to go around out there blind at Santee Cooper, find that grass, find those isolated stumps, and go for it. It'll be we're going to smash them at both places. I can just tell you that.
As a whole, the way that it sets up right now with no forward-facing sonar, you look at a Gunnersville, 10 Tom, Santee Cooper. Do you like the way it is setting up so far? It's like a fantasy draft.
It's fun. Like I said, I'm so old. I've been doing this for so long. Like anything new like this is exciting for me. I love it. I love it. New technology, that was exciting. A few years back we started utilizing it and catching fish on it. Any new baits that come out, I'm excited for it. So this is fun for me. I think this is cool. I'm gonna watch intently on the rest of this, and I can tell you, I promise you, I'm going to be watching very intently on these last 3 EQs, because if somebody is able to double qualify in one of these last 3 EQs, then yours truly gets into the classic. And man, these things are so hard to make. I just hope we can do it.
Now, John, undoubtedly there are some anglers out there that say, "What? No forward-facing at Santee Cooper? I got to change my game plan here." So what kind of anglers are those, and how will they change their game plan?
I think that, your Patrick Walters and the locals, like, Brandon Cobb, those guys that know the lake very well, I think that's going to, probably lead a little bit better for them because they know where they're supposed to be. They know where they might set up. And they're probably a little bit closer to be able to do that homework now that, like Davey's saying, that there's more vegetation on that place than there has been. If you go find it where it's isolated. That's gonna be a big factor. They're both gigantic lakes, and you can put the trolling motor down with forward-facing sonar, buzz on 2 to 3 miles an hour with your trolling motor, and you can find where that isolated stuff is a lot faster. So now it's going to have to be a little bit slower process to find those juice spots.
The great thing about those two lakes, I can guarantee you, and John mentioned it, there's going to be good weights at both of those events. The other thing, John Cruz, I know it's on your mind, but don't worry, somebody will double qualify. You're in the Classic.
Okay. Yeah, dude, it's just been so awesome to have such a long career in this thing already. Whatever happens, I'll be fine, and it'll be all right. But daggum, I want to be fishing in Knoxville. I can promise you.
Absolutely. Well, it's great. We've enjoyed that long career, and we know it's far from over. The great John Cruz joining us here and giving us the insights onto our South Carolina swing of the tournament season there. And guys, your thoughts about the way it goes. In your mind, which did it work out the way you'd like to have seen it play out?
Honestly, I just love both of those fisheries, and we've had such good history there with great events on both places. And you mentioned it, Z, the more I talk about whether you should allow or shouldn't, and the more I listen to people that are for or against, these two fisheries, it didn't matter to me. Honestly, I think they'll both shine with or without.
Do you feel like the Santee Cooper tournament will be kind of like a throwback event?
I do. I guess the one thing I thought about when John was talking about it, with no forward facing at Santee, and there again, it depends on how harsh our winter is and how soon things start to progress, especially on the lower lake. Those fish can start spawning in early February if we have a mild winter. But then, with us being there the time of year we are, brush piles do become a factor. Right. Not as much if the grass does well. With forward-facing, brush piles are much easier to fish than without, so we'll see.
All right. Let's recap what we're doing here. If you I know it's a busy day, it's a work day, but it was just 2 days ago we got the word from B.A.S.S.
It's the start of the NFL, Tommy. That's what I know.
That's tonight too. All of these things going on right now. But let's recap you on what we've done so far. Of course, B.A.S.S. came out 2 days ago with the decision that the season is going to be split effectively between forward-facing available to the anglers and events where it's not available. And we have been doing our random determination of that with our coin flip. So let's take a look at what we have so far for you. And as far as that goes, we started out down in Alabama, and Lake Guntersville, it turns out, is the lake that is not going to be live forward-facing sonar available. The second one, the Tin Tom Waterway, is the one that's no front-facing sonar, and the Arkansas River, it will be available there. Lake Martin, it will be available in Alabama. Now we just saw Lake Murray will have forward-facing sonar, and the Santee Cooper Lakes in South Carolina will be without front-facing sonar. So we got a good part of the season knocked out, but we got 2 more very interesting events to take a look at right now with regard to this the question of the day. Let's start with the Pasquotank River. Everyone was so amazed at this place, and it turned out so differently than everyone had planned for. Everyone had these elaborate game plans with big runs. The weather changed and blew from a different direction every day, and everybody, save one, had their plans dashed to some degree.
It did not turn out really the way that all the pre-tournament reports and all the homework that we did on the Pasquotank, and I did too. I mean, I wasn't covering but I watched every single second of Bassmaster Live and would text back and forth with you guys. And one of the things, a couple different things that are amazing about this tournament was what Kyle Welcha unlocked and absolutely laid a complete beat down where so many anglers thought that this was going to be one of those tournaments, almost like when we go out of Waddington and you've got to run 900 miles like a lot of anglers did in this tournament. He basically did not burn a gallon of gas. And the other thing that I thought was amazing is I called Kyle after this tournament and he said, man, I'm bummed. I'm just bummed. And I said, not following. I'm just not following what you're talking about. And he said, look, man, I fly by the seat of my pants and I don't use technology, but I have to be competitive. And he said, I did not want my first Bassmaster Elite Series win to be using technology. And I said, oh, I think you're going to be fine, Kyle Welcher. But he was dead serious that he wanted his first one to be the way we see him fish on the Sabine River, the way that we saw him fish on Lake Hartwell when he almost won the Bassmaster Classic. But with using his landscape mode that he was using in the tournament, absolutely blew the field away. And what I thought was amazing about it was, for the most part, he refound them every single day.
A couple things there. I had conversations with him during the event, going into the final day. Everyone knew that he was going to win the event, even him. He brought that up. Hey, if it's legal to use, I'm going to use the live sonar forward facing, but I wish I wasn't winning this tournament, using it totally, because without it, I would not be winning this tournament. The other thing, I thought this tournament was going to be one, a long run. Someone's going to have a place to themselves, 100 miles away. He did it right at takeoff. Yes. And other people said, hey, I practiced that. I checked it. I did not see those fish with my sonar that Kyle Welcher did.
From there, going to take a look at Lake Champlain. And here's one of the places, even though Ed Loughran won here a few years ago on largemouth, boy, if Lake Champlain is not, hypothetically, is not a forward-facing sonar tournament, it instantly brings back into play a largemouth factor on this body of water.
So this coin toss to me is much different than the Murray Santee.
This is critical.
This is critical because a lot of our anglers, including myself, just watching, I remember the days on Lake Champlain when Ticonderoga run was worth it. You had to do it, or you miss a koi or somewhere like that. And we have not had that the last few years. We saw a little bit of it from Seth Fighter last year. Caught a couple big ones. The fans loved it. If Lake Champlain is without forward facing, I'm already looking forward to the largemouth fishing we'll see.
And really, if you look at what Koya Fujita has done here, Cody Huff, catching those true suspenders over 50 to 60 to 70 feet of water, bait chasers, 20 feet down. Now that let's say it's not a forward-facing sonar tournament, you can't look at the shine box. Will somebody crack that? This is the tournament that I looked at. Now that they know the areas, whether it's the inland sea, whether it's the New York side, now that they know those areas that they suspend, not being able to look at them on that screen, can somebody maximize those areas and bust into the top? Maybe win the tournament catching that ghost fish that does not relate to the bottom. This is the tournament that I was curious to see if that would happen.
Yeah, and to clarify, not being able to look at them on the screen, they'll still be able to use 2D, side imaging, and they'll just not have this live sonar, which a lot of people say is no different than side imaging. We're going to find out.
It is very hard to go over 60 to 80 feet of water and throw. Yeah. It's very hard mentally to do that. But if there's, you can pick a few anglers out in our field that will absolutely try to make that happen.
All right. Well, we're going to recap again. We're doing a lot of that today because, well, this is kind of a spur-of-the-moment thing. The announcement was just made a couple of years ago. We're trying to get everyone in on it, to get you invested in it as well. We're dividing the season up for 2026 into tournaments with and without forward-facing live sonar. So we'll take a look at what we have done so far. With our coin flip, we have decided that Guntersville will not have forward-facing sonar. Conversely, the other side of the coin, so to speak, Lake Martin will have it. The Arkansas River will will have it. The Tin-Tom Waterway will not have front-facing sonar. Lake Murray will have it, and the Santee Cooper Lakes will be approached by the Elite Series anglers without the benefit of that technology. And for our next one right here, the Pasquotank River in Lake Champlain, we're so proud to welcome our special guest there, Brian Schmidt. Brian Schmidt, one of the superstars of Champlain, one of the superstars of the Northern Swing, it seems like, year in and year out. And Brian, thanks for making some time for us today.
Hey guys, thank you for having me. I'm out on the Potomac doing a little fishing right now, so I'm happy to talk to you.
All right. Well, we looked at Champlain and Pasquotank. We want to delve into your personal biases here. Which one would you rather have forward-facing sonar on?
I would like that's a toughie. You know, I've come to really love Garmin Live Scope. It's been a tool of mine. But me being just a little bit greedy with what I like to do at Champlain, I'd possibly, if you know, with the cards that we're given here, you know, I would possibly like to see the Champlain not have it. You know, just to go do some old school, you know, I already heard Ticonderoga and Missisquoi mentioned there. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that.
Brian, as a whole, do you like this setup to where it's trying to get a load of diversity in the next year's schedule?
You know, for sure. Like I said, man, I love Garmin Live Scope. It's been a tool of mine. It's helped me get to the Classic. You know, my roots, skies is you know, grass fishing a lot of visual stuff, but I've adapted the technology and I love it, and it speeds up the process so much. But you know, like I said, where I come from and everything, you know, I definitely don't mind seeing a little, you know, shake up like what we got coming next year. And you know, I'm sure the best fishermen are still going to catch them no matter what format it is. So, you know, I'm excited, you know, really excited to fish some events, you know, mix it up, man.
So real quick, Brian, I can tell you're the fisherman that you are. You have that screen so we cannot see where you're at on the Potomac River.
You're exactly right.
You are totally.
There are no landmarks. I totally noticed that.
And then I must also admit, I was hoping that you were out. Oh, yeah, well,
we know exactly where he is.
I know exactly where. That's where I thought you would be. And then on a personal note, I was hoping you were out finding some striped bass because I'm hoping to come up there in a few weeks, maybe a month or so, and fish with you. But let's get back to the topic at hand. You mentioned that Lake Champlain, you know, personally, because you have so much experience there. Tell us how different you think the Pasquotank River event will be than the beatdown that Kyle Welcher gave everyone using his live sonar last year.
Well, here's what's going on with that whole sound, the Pasquotank. I think everybody understands now how special that place is. I'm disappointed in myself that I did not go put some time in down there. I was like, oh man, it's a tidal system. I was there like 10, 15 years ago for one event, and I'm going to go put some time in there, man. What Kyle did was incredible, but I want to stress this. I believe that exists several places on that sound. That place is so big, but the weather didn't let us access everything. I think because they were spawning, that was a big tool. I feel like it still will show out tremendously if we have it or we don't have the live scope, you know, usage. It's just a phenomenal place that's on a major uptick. Kind of excited to see which way that goes, to be honest.
Hey, Brian, real quick, as you look around right now, I'm not a full-time Bassmaster employee, and I'm going to show your location right now. You just dropped a pin on, yeah, you did. You dropped a pin on the Potomac River, and I wanted to show a lot of our viewers that live on the East Coast exactly where Brian Schmidt is right now. We're joking with you, Brian. Real quick, are you ready? Are you ready, Brian Schmidt?
I'm ready.
Here we go. This is for the Pasquotank River. Bass Shield will be no forward-facing sonar for the Pasquotank. And that right there, that other side, that bass feeding on the bottom, feeding on crustaceans, will be forward-facing sonar. Brian, you're ready. Wes Miller, Mike McInnes, truck. Here we go for the Pasquotank River. Will be forward-facing sonar, which means there are no forward-facing sonar on Lake Champlain. Exactly what he wanted.
Oh my
Yes.
We're going to let you have the first comment on it. What do you think, Brian?
Wow. I'm blown away. That's going to be a definitely different event. There's definitely some guys in the field that have fished Champlain prior to, the technology, that we have nowadays that kind of understand what could be going on. I don't know. I'm pretty excited about that, but I don't want to come off at all like I don't like forward face. I'm not saying that at all. These are the cards we're dealt. Me being greedy, I'm excited.
Yeah. So real quick, Brian Smith, you know so much experience on Lake Champlain. Now that we know you will not be able to use a forward facing there at Lake Champlain, can someone win weighing in 20 largemouth bass with no forward facing in 2026?
1,000. What time of year? Late August? 1,000%.
And let me ask you something about that. Is a lot of times in August on Lake Champlain, a lot of the smallmouth definitely put on a lot of weight. That's all the way back, man, for the last 30 years, really understanding that lake. How much do you attest, Brian, to water level with largemouth on Lake Champlain?
Huge. That's the biggest thing, Mark, what you just said right there. That's the number one deciding factor on the whole thing. I fished a tournament up there years ago. I'm getting ready to go up there for the EQ too, but in September. And I went up there for the first time late August, and the water was down. It was decent. Fishing was pretty good. Dude, they got a hurricane. The water came up. And in 2 weeks, every largemouth on the lake was on the bank. It was incredible. So water level's a big thing. And let's be honest, I'm not so sure without live scope that you could even fool with the smallmouth. I mean, years ago, we could catch them Carolina rigging, swim baiting, spooks, so forth like that. But I think we've put so much pressure on them because of this excellent technology. I shouldn't even really be saying any of this stuff, but because we're going there. But like they know not to sit on anything anymore, the smallmouth. Mm. So I just don't even see how you could even think that you would catch those anymore, especially that time of year. But it's going to be fun. Like I said, I probably shouldn't even be talking about that kind of stuff, but
boy, his head is on a swivel. His head is on a swivel.
He's want to know if there's any viewers already dialed in on that pin he sent us.
He's ready to be on the move right now, Brian.
So real quick, I am on the Potomac. I got an event next week, but where I'm sitting currently, I'm just sitting here just to talk to you guys. It's really not a good spot.
Yeah,
okay, noted. We got it. Thank you, Brian
you're
Schmidt.
Awesome. Thank
you so much. Great season, great job from Brian Schmidt right there. Well, he got what he wanted. If we read him right, his comments, he kind of got what he wanted. The one thing I would ask you guys to comment on, Kyle utilized front-facing sonar at the Pasquotank, which it'll be available there again this time around. Yet the rest of the field, most of them had it too, and they got the beating of a lifetime put on them. So is it really that much of an advantage?
Boy, it's hard to say, man, because that tournament, that was a throttling at the Pasquotank. But you could tell, you could just tell right there was a little added extra excitement. I made the comment, by about 12:15 today, every Elite Series angler will start game planning the next 12 months of his life, and you're going to see. And man, there's something I do want to say. After the last 3 years, and I respect the fans that watch this stuff, but really in the last 24 hours, I've seen a lot of anglers that are for what we're doing. I've seen a lot of anglers that are against. You look at guys like Ben Milliken and some of the younger anglers that really want a full forward-facing. So I respect that.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think, and this is weird because I always have an opinion, I honestly don't think there was a right decision to be made on this. I don't think there was a wrong decision to be made. But I think in some way, shape, or form, the best decision 12 months from now will have been made.
Yeah, and to your question, Tommy, can there be another beatdown like we saw Patrick Walters at Toledo Bend years ago? Fork. And then this past year with Kyle Welcher using the technology, can there be another beatdown like that without it? We would never know if we didn't do this for at least a year or so to understand with and without in 2026.
All right. Well, before we recap the schedule, we'll do another reset for you right here. I do want to say that one of the virtues of this decision, in my mind, is it doesn't take a whole side of the issue and say you're gone, you're cut out. Everybody still gets a place at the table. That's the best chance we have to learn more and move forward. And it's going to change. And I think forward-facing angles are going to have to change and adapt through the years because Brian pointed out these fish are getting attuned to that.
Interesting.
And it's
very interesting.
I thought he was.
There is, man. And I've seen it. I do a lot of content with forward-facing sonar. I do a lot. I did some last week. There are lakes, even though Trey McKinney didn't show this, there are lakes like St. Clair. There are lakes that I live around that I grew up on that you are seeing conditioning. You are seeing fish that are used to that pinging, no doubt about it. And you will see that evolve in some way, shape, or form, all the way from how they set up, listening to Brian Schmidt, to how you catch them. You're seeing that happen right now.
The other thing I think that Brian hit on that's very, very a big question to me personally is those fish, even though they can see them, they've gotten harder and harder to catch. Are they going to be hard to catch without that ping on them? Or will you just be able to go out there and blindly cast and catch them? I don't think anyone really knows the answer to that yet.
I fished a lot of tournaments on Champlain that time of year. And one of the things that you were able to do, you heard him talking about drop shots and Carolina rigs, really the way that we used to catch them all the time there. It used to be you could drop over the side and waylay them. Dude, there are a lot of these lakes now that your boat cannot be within, well, I can tell you, within 80 to 90
it's
feet
real
of them,
easy to track that.
You get within 60 feet of them, they're gone. And you are definitely seeing a lot of areas throughout the years past that we concentrated on fish that would set up on contours on lakes like Champlain. They just don't do it anymore.
Right. The casts are longer. There's no doubt.
Casts are longer.
They are longer. I mean, that's very easy to track. Very easy to track. We got one more lake to decide here. We'll do it with a single coin flip, but let's get you caught up now on what we have done so far because everyone's joining at different times here. We have been dividing the schedule up, front-facing, no front-facing. No front-facing for Lake Guntersville, Lake Martin. They will have that live sonar available, the 10-Tom Waterway, none. Arkansas River, you will have that technology. Also at Lake Murray in South Carolina, Santee Cooper is going to be done without the benefit of front-facing live sonar, and ditto for Lake Champlain, making Pasquotank River available with the technology. And that brings us to the last event of the year, so we just need one coin flip for this one, and we got our special guest, our finale. We saved the biggest celebrity perhaps for the last.
Yes.
Our own Dave Mercer is here to talk about our final stop, the St. Lawrence River and Lake Ontario. And Dave, what do you think about this decision that just you're new to it just like we are? We just heard about it 2 days ago. What do you think of it?
I mean, I'll be honest. I'm caught off guard, guys. I thought I was jumping into a fantasy football draft here.
Looking good.
Big game tomorrow big game for the Chiefs.
Yes. I'll say hola, which is how you say hello in Brazil, of course, where it's all going to go down, where the kickoff to the redemption season begins in Brazil. I cannot wait for that. But I think that, I think that this topic in general, I've said it several times. I mean, it's you shouldn't talk about politics, you shouldn't talk about religion, and you should not talk about forward-facing sonar, because it doesn't matter who you talk to. They're going to have an opinion one way or another, and they are going to be passionate about that opinion. And I think what's happening in our sport right now, if we're being realistic, is a major transition. Things are changing. You know, the sport is changing. And I think what the rules are today may not be the rules 5 years from now. But I think that this is a good, happy medium. And I think you're going to have people that really just want it to disappear that are probably not going to be happy. And you got people that want it to go full-fledged in, and they're probably not going to be happy. But in the middle, hopefully there is a group of sane people that look at this as a great way to really get some actual tangible evidence of how it affects the sport, and really get a bit of the best of both worlds. I mean, I look at it like where I live, we don't have an early bass season. It sounds crazy, but I would love an early bass season. And if they announced tomorrow that it was a 3-week early bass season, I'd still look at that as a victory. It's not the whole year, but this is a victory for people who have wanted to see it old school, and it's still a victory for those who love technology, in my opinion.
All right, looking forward to what we're going to do. We're going to wrap this up here. You look at the St. Lawrence River, and whenever you look at the St. Lawrence River, you think of two young pistoleros, two young outlaws that always go to the bank of the St. Lawrence River and cash out. Chris and Corey Johnston. I think they've made, we talked about it earlier today, I think they've made about $500,000 there since July of this year, fair to say. How do you think they mentally, if they're watching this right now, they're actually probably out on the St. Lawrence River, how do you think they want this to fall for next year?
I gotta believe that they want it no forward-facing sonar. Forward-facing sonar, when it comes to smallmouth bass fishing, has been the great equalizer. There was a group of anglers that really you could count on. They were fantasy fishing super picks, and it always panned out. And I think for all of those guys, the traditional smallmouth anglers, they want no forward-facing sonar in this event. I love, as the guy who does the weigh-in, I mean, I love the mega bags. I want to see as many century belts as possible, but I think it definitely gets better for the Johnston brothers, and that's a very scary thought, to think that things could actually get better for them. But it doesn't just get better for them. It gets better for a bunch of the smallmouth hands. Brandon Polnick, he's kind of disappeared off the smallmouth scene the last few years. Forward-facing sonar goes away, and he's back in the mix.
Hey, real quick, I will tell you this. I have fished Lake Ontario a lot with Corey Johnston. Corey Johnston's exact words to me 24 months ago: I don't ever want to fish Lake Ontario without forward-facing sonar. That is an actual fact. He did say that.
So Dave, I've got to put you on the spot. Z asked what you thought about the Johnston brothers wanting with or without forward-facing for Lake Ontario, the St. Lawrence River. You fish there a lot, and I heard you just say you love to see the mega bags. But in a personal kind of way, because I know you love the fishery so much, do you also kind of want to see it without forward-facing and show that you can catch a lot of great smallmouth bass and maybe even some largemouth play just a little without the forward-facing live sonar?
Yeah, I mean, just for difference of covering it. I mean, we've been there a lot. Literally, this was the first year we haven't been there in the, last 8 years. So just to see it kind of be something different, I'm all for a no forward-facing sonar. I mean, you look at what's happened already in this parade of coin tosses, like Gunnersville that has drastically changed that event. And no forward-facing sonar will drastically change things. And I will retort to Zona. I know that Corey Johnson said he doesn't ever want to fish it that way, but he will be able to adapt and fish it the old school
100%.
way and do a lot
100%.
of the things that we were used to seeing. He may not want to do it, but guess what? He's going to do it, and it's probably going to work out better for him if the coin toss works out that way. If not, none of what I said plays. But, Davey, you mentioned one thing, largemouth bass will be a player if there is no forward-facing sonar. They'll be even more important, like they were pre-forward-facing sonar. If you look at Greg Hackney top 10, I think a John Murray top 10, just largemouth the whole way through the tournament. So we will see largemouth play if there is no forward-facing sonar. But if you ask me, if you spend any time fishing for largemouth bass on the St. Lawrence River, you're absolutely out of your mind. Unless, of course, you're shooting a TV show, which I'm going to do there in a couple of days.
Yeah.
Dave, are you ready? The last one for the 2026 Bassmaster Elite Series season. Taking a look at this right here. Again, if you're just joining us, that right there, the Bass Shield for the St. Lawrence River. If the Bass Shield comes up, that will be no forward-facing sonar right there, turning it around. You see the bass eating the little crawdad right there. That will be forward-facing sonar. Dave Mercer wearing the Chiefs jersey. Redemption year. Are you ready for the St. Lawrence River? Cameraman Wes Miller, Mike McInnes. For the whole season right here, there will be forward-facing sonar on the St. Lawrence River 2020. You kind of feel like some anglers just cheered.
I just heard them roar.
There's the way it fell, Dave Mercer. There you go, buddy.
All right, give us your initial reaction, Dave.
Well, one person that's not cheering is probably Lisa Talmadge, tournament director, that's got to heave all those giant bags up on the scale. She'll be working a little harder with forward-facing sonar, but as we've seen, it is not a question of whether there will be century belts. It is a question of how many century belts we will see. And I'm going to go out on a limb here. I mean, statistically, what's the most century belts we've seen on the St. Lawrence River? Tommy, do you know?
Oh, gosh. You mean per tournament? The most we've had in a tournament? Two.
I don't know.
I thought it was two.
Two or three?
Know.
Yeah, I thought it was two.
I'm going to say we have 5 to 7 century belts because we're that much closer to the lake where we're running out of. I mean, we're going to see more century belts than we've ever seen before. And it will be, I mean, you think of excitement, your Angler of the Year race. Let's just say it was Chris Johnson and Trey McKinney, and it's not a good comparison because Chris Johnson is good at everything, but Trey McKinney obviously known for what he does with forward-facing sonar. If you look at that Angler of the Year race, there's going to be that final event where a Kyoya, where a Trey, where somebody who is so good at that has that opportunity to make up big points.
Dave Mercer, I want real quick. You've made it very clear that you don't think you can win with largemouth bass at the St. Lawrence River, which I'm not saying I disagree. But if there's six,
I totally do.
I love the
totally
largemouth. If
totally
there's
disagree.
6 century belts, can 5th or 6th place be largemouth?
No. Y'all are nuts, man.
Do you know how passionate I feel about this? I literally spent most of the day yesterday yelling at my buddy Brian Bickle because he was competing against the Johnsons on that tournament that happened this past weekend in Kingston, Ontario. And he went largemouth fishing on day 2. He caught a 5-pounder. I mean, they had 29 pounds, 4 ounces after day 1. They were 4 ounces behind the Johnson brothers. They went largemouth fishing on day 2, and everybody's kind of acting like, hey, what machismo that took. You ask me any minute you spend on that body of water where you are not looking for smallmouth bass is wasted time. So, yeah, they can be cute. They can get you in the top 10. They make great television shows. But they are not going to win this event or even top 5.
Well, Dave, stick around with us as we run through it again. We're going to recap all the choices we made. It could have been as many as 5 with the front-facing live sonar. Could have been as few as 4, but it turned out in favor, just by virtue of the random coin flips, that 5 lakes will have front-facing sonar. That is Lake Martin in Alabama, the Arkansas River at Muskogee, Oklahoma, Lake Murray in Columbia, South Carolina, the Pascatank River in North Carolina, and it will be front-facing sonar on the St. Lawrence River. Wow. And Dave, the ones that will not have front-facing sonar, Lake Guntersville, the Tin Tom Waterway, the Santee Cooper Lakes, and Lake Champlain. And Dave, let me ask you this. Do you think those 4 lakes on the right there with no front-facing, are they going to provide ample opportunities for a lot of these anglers to say, so you see here, these guys couldn't, the guys that have it couldn't catch them, or the guys that have it really can catch them better than we thought. Which way is that going to turn?
I honestly believe at this time next year, that debate will not end.
No.
Because I believe that the majority of people, all the people in the Elite Series literally can catch him. And I think that's what we're going to learn. Like, I don't think you're going to be like, oh, look what happened. But I think you look at Guntersville, it literally would have been 10 century belts, a big fish beatdown. And now it's going to be a little bit more grimy. It's going to be a little bit more like, you know, back in the day when we saw Marizo doing his thing out there. You know, we're going to see a lot of different kind of fishing. And guess what? That's what the Bassmaster fans have asked for. I don't think, well, there is some people that really hate forward-facing sonar, but the majority of people don't hate it as much. I think what you get is people hate always seeing it. And this is going to give us variety. And if you ask me, that's pretty cool.
All right. Well, there you have it. That's the whole story of this day and this sort of landmark decision by B.A.S.S. to divide the season up, to let it go both ways at half the tournament.
Hey, I know this took a lot of time, a lot of thought, a lot of meetings. On the outside looking in, what it does, and I made this comment about a year ago, if they went this direction, it will be, 2026 will be some of the best storylines we have ever seen on the Bassmaster Elite Series. I kind of want to call McInnes and ask if I can come cover one or two more next year.
Be happy to have that. What do you think, Dave?
We might give him the gate code. He doesn't have it right now.
I
but
forgot
we might
the gate code this morning.
Well, we have to do a survey on that and see how many people are in favor of giving him the gate code.
We'll flip a coin if I can. That's awesome.
He'll be back. One thing Zona's horrible at is retiring. He will be back.
Obviously.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Obviously.
Go.
Hey, I did not know which way today was going to go. That was actually awesome.
That was fun. That was fun.
Listen, there will be unbelievable game planning literally starting in the next 15 seconds.
Absolutely, and more diversity than we've had in our Elite Series season in several years.
A lot of people breathing a huge sigh of relief,
Yeah,
depending
me
on who they
after
are.
this.
After this, a lot. Everybody changing their plans, tweaking them for 2026, and that is going to be the new deal for 26. We're glad to lay it out for you today. Enjoyed having you with us.